something like that? Okay, I think it was.
This is Maria Vasquez-Boyd, producer
I saw
host
on your,
of Art Speak Radio, inviting you to tune in every
your,
Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. for Art Speak Radio.
Instagram
We
page there
serve
was
up
like a
information
video
about
of
the
you,
visual
and I
and
behind the mic, and I
video
saw
arts
that on your
community,
side. I was like,
including
that's a
live
KKFI.
music
Oh, I
artists,
was volunteering.
performers,
Okay,
yeah.
musicians, art organizations.
So I come
plus
into a
art
train
supporters.
every
That's
Friday.
Art Speak Radio,
Or at least I try
every
to come
Wednesday,
in.
noon to 1 p.m. only on 90.1 FM,
90.1 FM, KKFI.
Kansas City Community Radio.
So you have put out, I've counted 12 singles now this
And
year,
then I put out another one today.
and you went today.
Yeah, so now it's 13.
Wow.
I'm keeping you on your feet.
I know. It's great.
Yeah, I was planning on releasing one every Friday, but now I'm planning on releasing Wednesday and Friday. I'm planning on just keep releasing more as I have more songs to put out.
That's great. And I know you're JNabe, aka Justin Watanabe.
Yeah.
When you did the guest instruction for that's when I learned your name. I might refer to you that way once or twice in the interview if that's okay, but I'll mainly refer to
Okay. Yeah.
JNabe.
Yeah.
So, congratulations on all your great stuff. All of the, I think you have, what'd you say, like almost 60,000.
Yeah, it's like my monthly listeners is at 59,987 right now or something like that.
That's great.
And I'm thinking I'm gonna be over 60,000 today once it like updates, because I think Spotify updates like once a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this, I was on a podcast last week called Long Playing Listening Party. It's some musicians and producers and people from Lawrence, based in Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
And we decided I decided, they were like, what kind of music do you have done? I go, well, maybe some of my favorite releases of the year so far. So we played this song on there, and Nate Holt is kind of the guy that runs that podcast. And he records his Astrales. And he did like you. He put out like, I think it was like 16 singles last year, or 12. He put out like one every month.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 14. And then this year he put them on an album and released them as an album.
Yeah.
But he kind of is like the producer, music maker, and they would bring other artists in to do the lyrics. Sometimes it was hip hop, sometimes it was a lot of times it was hip hop vocals, with kind of like how this song is arranged. But he was trying to dissect how the song was produced while I played it for him, as listening to it. But okay, well, we'll talk here in just a minute or a second. And that is JNabe Can't Stop Me, featuring Julia Reynolds. That came out February 18th. Kansas City's premier indie Asian rapper JNabe is also known as Justin Watanabe. He started rapping in 2020, believe it or not. He's a hip-hop artist, voiceover artist, radio DJ. He's a talented up-and-coming musical artist with years of vocal training and a creative mind, one-of-a-kind perspective from traveling all over the United States. He was born in New Jersey, raised in Pennsylvania, where he began his musical journey playing piano. At a young age, he played piano recitals with fellow musicians and displayed his musical prowess in front of audiences. JNabe enrolled in choir, orchestra, and band while in middle school, doing all three programs for 4 years. Addicted to playing music, at the age of 14, he entered a singing competition and blew away the competition, winning it all. Inspired by the work ethics of fellow musicians he met along his musical journey, JNabe moved to Kansas City to pursue a career in rapping. And so far in 2020, JNabe has released 13 singles now as of today. And you can go to JNabeofficial.com to learn more. JNabe, thank you so much for being with us on Wednesday Midday Medley. Welcome to the radio.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on all of the work that you're doing and putting out there. it's definitely getting noticed by people all over the world, right?
Yeah, right now I believe my top city is in London.
Wow. Do you know why?
My only guess is like drill rap is very popular over there. My number one single is Balling and Blowing featuring Rick Ross. And I kind of have like a lower intonation in that song, so it kind of probably reminds them of someone like Pop Smoke, if you're familiar with him, with like his really deep voice and like how drill is like really popular over there. So I think with the deep voice, it kind of brings off.
That was actually your 12th single, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That you most recently put out, and then just today you have a new single out that we can hardly keep up with. How many singles?
Yeah.
Some of us in the Kansas City music community are trying to track all the new releases that come out every year, and you're one of those artists that we have to just keep checking back on your website, checking back in all of your socials to see what you have coming up next, because it's really, really amazing that you're so prolific. We heard Can't Stop Me featuring Julia Reynolds that you put out back in February. How did you meet Julia? And can you share with us a process of how you put a song like that together with a guest vocalist?
Sure. So, Guitar Center in Overland Park is like a secret place, I feel like, because they have like that community board. That's actually where I met the owners at GFM Studio, where they gave me an internship, and that was where I saw Julia's card, and I was listening to some of her stuff on YouTube. I was like, oh, maybe I should collaborate with her. So I reached out to her, and then she came up with the hook, and I put my verses on there to the beat that I had made at the studio, and that's how we came up with the song.
Very cool. And then did she record her stuff and send it to you?
No,
we get together in the studio?
Yeah, we were together in the studio, yeah.
And do you have your own studio that you do all of your work in?
Yes, I do now.
And you just sort of built your own studio in your own place, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's really amazing. So all of your music pretty much is produced there at this point, right?
Yeah, now it is.
You were born in New Jersey.
Yes.
Right? Then kind of raised in Pennsylvania. That's kind of where you started making music in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, mostly through the school system.
Mostly through the schools. Where at in Pennsylvania were you?
I was near King of Prussia Mall. That's like the biggest thing that like people usually recognize, because it's like one of the biggest malls in the United States.
Cool. And you started playing piano. That was your first instrument, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's kind of a good way to start. It seems like the piano is like the basics of everything in so many ways. That taught you a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, it helps a lot with music theory to be able to understand, like, to play the piano, and it helps a lot with like beat production too, because you can play so many instruments just using like a MIDI keyboard.
You were a part of choir, orchestra, and band in school for 4 years, doing all of those things, learning about all of those things, kind of teaching you how to be a player as part of a bigger music machine, right? The band, the orchestra.
Yeah.
And now here you are as a solo artist, kind of bringing all that together and making it come out of just you, predominantly, and the guest artists that you bring in to play with you. Was that invaluable education, being a part of a school band and a school orchestra?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is the work ethic and just being able to do things you don't like, because that's what you're going to have to do in the long run anyway. So I think it's just like the work ethic that was instilled in me when I went through the school system that helps me give me like a competitive advantage, I guess you could say, in the music industry.
What brought you to Kansas City?
It was mostly my dad's job, also because the cost of living is like cheaper. So it's easier to like manage your finances and your budget when it comes to like the money you need to spend on rapping, because it's not really like something that's like cheap to pursue.
Wow, you're so wise. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
21.
20. I'm kind of blown away because you have the maturity of like someone who's much older than a 21-year-old person, just the way that you're talking and the whole plan that you have for yourself. Had you been aware of the hip-hop scene in the Kansas City Lawrence community, or was that something that you learned about once you moved here?
That was kind of more of what I learned about, like mostly from the studio. That's when I got introduced to like Tech Nine, Chris Calico, and like Strange Music and their collaborative, and that's how I mostly got into hip-hop.
I noticed on your socials that you had a chance to actually meet Tech Nine.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Did you go to a show and have a chance to meet him after?
He had like a meet and greet, so I got to meet him that way.
There's really a rich hip-hop scene in Kansas City, and what people don't always realize is that when you start listening to hip-hop, there's many, many different kinds of hip-hop. all different kinds, and there's gangsta rap and more popular hip hop, and Kansas City has a little bit of all of it in our own scene here in Lawrence and Kansas City both. A lot of people who have made some really amazing recordings. We're happy to have you as part of that community. Are you finding yourself accepted by the music community in Kansas City? Have you felt that? Have you met other people over your last couple of years of making music?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone seems to be really open-minded in Kansas City, which is really pleasant for me, and it was great meeting everyone that's been listening to my music and listening to other people's music.
And you've been volunteering here at the radio station?
Yeah, I think I've been here for about probably like 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So eventually you wouldn't mind having your own radio show?
No, that'd be
area?
pretty fun, I think.
Yeah. What kind of a show would you do?
Probably playing hip-hop music, but also I had an idea for a show too. Like something like a secret confessions line. Like where people can talk about like things they never told about anyone else, like anonymously, and maybe it'll be pretty funny, who knows.
That's a good idea. You could do both of those together, I'm sure. And I'm sure maybe the secret confessions could lead into some even more creative project down the road, I'm sure. Because you are a very creative person who has had the chance to collaborate in this year alone. You've worked with The Real Tez, Nuisance, Julia Reynolds, Cannabis, I Am Justified. Is it Salt Xero?
Site Zero.
Site
that
Zero.
one's a pretty hard one.
Site Zero, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have to look at this and read it right. Site Zero. All of these different artists have brought their own flavor to your music, right?
Yeah.
And tell us about the collaborative process. How do you find these artists online, or you see them and then you contact them and tell them about something that you're working on, and they bring that to that? Tell us how it works out.
This was a pretty interesting process actually. When I was 14, I was working for the state of Delaware because I lived there for about like a year and a half, and I worked at their first state community action agency. So I was working with like underprivileged kids to help them with like their activities and helping them with their homework. So I was tutoring there for like English and math, and that's where I met The Real Tez, and he's the one who linked me up with a lot of the other artists that I thought would be good to work with. So he was like the main person that helped me collaborate with people initially, which is like weird because like when you're a solo artist, most of the time you release like music with just you on it, but I started out like working with other artists. So I think it helped me in the long run because I was able to like work with people who are more experienced than me, and then they're able to show me like how they did their tracks so I could understand how to produce my tracks better too.
That's great. That's amazing. Music is such a collaborative art form, as you know from all of your experience in bands and orchestras and choirs. But hip-hop is really collaborative. There's all artists who are featured, like every hip-hop track usually has somebody who's featured on that track who brings in a special monologue through rap that they bring to that track. And you're certainly doing all of that, especially with the new single that came out just before the one that came out today, Ballin' and Blowin', featuring Rick Ross, that was released April 19th. Was that a big deal for you to work with Rick Ross?
Oh yeah, for sure. I respect Rick Ross a lot, and especially his business mind, since he's like so well known for like, they call him the boss. So like he owns like 30 Wingstops, and he owns like all these like 50 Chevrolets that he uses like as assets. And then his home is called the Promised Land. He has all this land where he has like people shoot like commercials, and it's been in like multiple movies, and he's known for having the #1 residential, like the biggest residential pool in North America. So it's kind of cool to work with him.
Spotify is like one of the ways that you share your music with the world. It's also a way for you to measure who's actually paying attention to what you're doing, and it's been pretty good to you, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You've been able to get over 10,000 spins on some of these songs right off the bat, and like you said, you're over 60,000 followers now, and it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Almost like growing at 10,000 people every week and a half or so on your site.
Yeah, recently it's been like 10,000 a day, so it's been kind of crazy.
Oh my goodness. And you've done a pretty good job of putting yourself out there in all social media.
Yeah.
Because Spotify is one place, but you're pretty much everywhere. You can find your music in iTunes, Apple Music. You can find your presence in Instagram, Facebook. You've done a really diligent job putting yourself in ways that people can learn more about you and find out more about you. And that's something that you've been working on this year, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm also on Reverb Nation and Bandcamp because I feel like those are pretty important too.
They are, I really do. And sometimes people forget that the audience of listeners and all the different demographics of these people, they all use social media different ways. Like I know that really, really super younger folk, TikTok is the only place for them. Like middle school kids, for example, that's their social media. And Facebook is sort of getting to be the place where 30 and over kind of, but Instagram is maybe where a lot of younger people have migrated to. And then of course Spotify, it seems like everybody is on Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify is like the new SoundCloud for music discovery for sure.
That's amazing. And also you are on SoundCloud too,
yes,
right?
I am.
And that's a really beautiful way to share files and share stuff. And you can learn so much about other artists through Spotify. And some people have broken through the business through Spotify or through SoundCloud in an amazing way. Tell us about the brand new single that just kind of came out today that we'll probably have to play next week on the show.
Yeah, it's called So Alone. So it's kind of talking about like your experiences that happens like when there's not really too many people in your life and you're kind of isolated all the time. So it's talking about like those painful experiences that people may go through.
Do you sometimes feel that way as a solo artist?
Sometimes, yeah, especially during quarantine. It's kind of hard to get anywhere, and like people seem to be like busy all the time.
So now that quarantine is sort of ebbing away and venues are opening up again and people are doing live shows again, are you planning live performances? Do you have any of that planned down the road?
It'll be cool to do some live performances, but I'm not really tapped into that like realm yet. Yeah, I've done some open mics at the Kansas City Art Garden, but besides that, I haven't really done any like official shows.
Is that something that you want to eventually do?
Yeah, I would definitely be interested.
What's it going to take for you to do that? What do you need first before you can do that?
I feel like right now I just want to keep building up my presence online so I can make sure I can get a pretty big fan base coming to the in-person concerts. That's kind of my strategy right now.
Definitely. And possibly, like I know there are some people who are on Spotify that are known internationally, but maybe not even known in Kansas City where they're from, and they're making music out of their bedroom and releasing it through Spotify. One person in particular is Riley the musician, who recently transitioned and is now known as Anna Kennedy, but has like, hundreds of thousands of Spotify spins and got signed to an international record label and flies off and does concerts in Chicago, but doesn't do anything here in Kansas City because they're more known in other places. But hopefully you can break through that and get some local gigs going for yourself, because that would be really fabulous for you, I think. So any way we can help you with that, please let us know. There's a lot of different resources for local musicians in all genre. And as you found out from working like with Jessica, for example, there's a real collaborative spirit in this city of people that want to work together and learn about new stuff. So you have another new song that you're working on called Rat Race. Is that right?
Oh yeah, the Rat Race, yeah.
Is that something that's down the road for upcoming release, or?
Yeah, I have like 30 or 40 songs that are like in the vault. So I don't know when it's going to be released, but it'll come out at some point.
Wow. So how do you make the decision of what ends up coming out? And you're probably always adding to that at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of like what I'm feeling, and it's like if you're a musician, you know that like you have to copyright your songs. So like every 10 songs, that's the max you can copyright. So it kind of depends on like which ones I have copyright next that I release.
So that is a really important point that you make. And I was talking with a manager of an artist that we play a lot on the show is Ivory Blue, who is a singer-songwriter, kind of rock and roller. And their manager, Clarcha, is always talking about how so many local artists forget about the copyright aspect. They just write their music, put it on a record, send it out there, but don't really do the work of copywriting it and taking care of the publishing aspect of that.
Yeah.
How did you learn about that? I mean, you've actually read books and stuff.
Oh yeah, I've read like a whole bunch of books, but most of it was learned like interning at the studio. But I go to a local library and I read a lot of books, and there's also like the local library has like a lot of online courses you can watch like through LinkedIn Learning, and Udemy has like free resources, so those are really great to look at too.
We should also mention that your dad is here filming this for your website. What does your family think about your music?
My mom's not really into music, but I think my dad likes it.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great to have their support. I'm really thrilled that you could spend some time and talk with us on the radio today. And I hope you know that this doesn't have to be the only time that you're our guest on the show. You're welcome back on the show anytime. So if you have an idea for something or if you want to come back on the radio show, don't be shy about asking to come on the show, because this radio station belongs to all of us, including you. So I know you're working as a volunteer here, but also just please know you're always welcome as our guest on Wednesday Midday Medley. We've been talking with JNabe, who is a rapper here in Kansas City who, believe it or not, has only been rapping for about 2 years, but has been making it sound like it's been a lifetime, because the experience that we're hearing is so fabulous. Put out 13 singles this year so far. We're going to play another one of those singles as we go out. We're going to play Follow Your Dreams featuring I Am Justified, that track. JNabe, thank you so much for being with us today on Wednesday Midday Medley.
Yep, it was great being here. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Do you think I could take your picture?
Oh, sure.
I would love to have that program on our station, the Secret Confessional. Yeah.
Would you like to stand right here as well?
Oh, sure.
This is kind of where I take photographs of all of